So I'm here with Crystal. Crystal, thank you so much for taking the time to do this interview with me. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Of course, thank you for having me.
Of course. So for the first question, we're going to start off with introductions. So if you can please introduce yourself and how long have you been living and working here in the area of South Park?
Wonderful. So my name's Crystal Brown, and I've been living in South Park since, I believe, 2016, 2017. And I've been volunteering and working in South Park for around the same time. Now I work for an organization called Cultivate South Park, which is a neighbor-led artist, food, really grassroots organization here in the neighborhood.
Tell us more a little bit about the project of Reconnect South Park, or RSP. How and why was this project born?
Yes, so the project was born by neighbors here in South Park. The history of 99 cutting through the neighborhood and disconnecting the streets. Right. And so it was looked at from the history of it and from other similar projects going around in the country where portions of highways that cut through residential areas are being dismantled. And the reasons why those highways were there in the first place has some pretty not nice history behind it, what was done to communities. It was started by just neighbors in the neighborhood asking questions, working with the city and working with other neighbors, getting a lot of information about what would it look like if this highway just went away. And obviously there's several steps to that, but the big question is we have a community where a highway is almost going through their backyard. I live in the neighborhood, so I go over the highway every day, and you know the numbers don't lie. Right. The pollution levels, the life expectancy levels are lower in this neighborhood, and a lot of that can be contributed to the pollution from the highway. So I was really blessed to be a part kind of the groundwork of the research portion of it, working with the amazing Casey James, really just looking at what could be done. So that's where we started. We had a lot of youth as well too that were part of the project, part of building models of what South Park looks like, scale models, and I love that because I'm a big nerd, so that was really cool. And just looking at reimagining that space. And there's two sides to everything, right? So there might be some people who that sounds like a really big thing, that all they hear is get rid of something. There's several avenues to, you know, pun intended, to get there. So yeah, that's how so I was really lucky to be part of really just the groundwork. And now it's in beautiful, capable hands of neighbors and community and storytellers like yourself.
Thank
you. It's exciting.
And I think it's very beautiful that you took what the community was saying, and of course with the help of other people, you guys are really trying to listen to them, because unfortunately we still live in a society where underrepresented communities were not being heard. And so the fact that you guys took what they were saying and are going to take this project to the next level and really incorporate their ideas, their thoughts, and their needs, I think that's just very beautiful, something that your team is doing for sure.
Yes, thank you.
On to the next question. How do you plan to get our community involved with this project? As you mentioned, it did start with the community. So now that it's going into process, how is the community going to continue to be involved with the whole process?
So in my position as a community member, I'll just listen and learn and collaborate and contribute where I can individually. Working with Cultivate South Park, it gives me the opportunity to offer space for any meetings. We have time in South Park Hall as a community, so we can offer hours and space, right? If we wanted to have a big community event where we've got the scale model out and we're teaching, you know, more people. So really it's just partnering with the Reconnect South Park team. We would love to hold space for Reconnect South Park to be able to host community, to give more information and have questions answered that community has.
Like I mentioned, it's really beautiful, especially because we'll hear a lot of our community members don't really know how to get involved because of the lack of information or the lack of resources. Very helpful also. What do you know and how do you feel about the highways placements and the impact it has on the neighborhood? If it wasn't there, what could you imagine being there in its place?
Great question. So when I moved here, it was the first thing I really noticed about the neighborhood. The neighborhood was so cool. It's kind of like this island community where it's sort of this isolated, surrounded by the river and industry and the highways, which really made for just this really cute community, which cute's such a weird word to use, but it really was. I really felt a beautiful community here. But the highway was definitely something that I noticed. In my mind at first, you know, because we're trained from a young age that there's a highway there, you don't just get rid of it, because that takes precedence over other things. I do recall one of my first nights during the summer when I was, you know, in my home, because I don't live too far from the highway, and I heard all these cars. I guess it's a typical thing in the summer. They're racing, and it was loud. It kept me up all night.
Definitely.
And that was my first thought of like, can they like dig a tunnel? Can they do something?
Right.
And it was going over the walking bridge was the first time that I looked at all the houses that are along the highway. There's no wall. There's no barrier. It's one house has like a chain link fence and a highway. And
the highway's just there, right?
Just
like cutting into the community's houses. Yeah.
So it was, and no criticism to who put it up or how it was put up, because I wasn't there. I don't know the circumstances. But when I look at it, it's sloppy. It's sloppy for residents that live there. In the community center, you have children playing basketball, and you see vehicles and big trucks whizzing by. It doesn't feel like there was a lot of intention for the people living in the community, and maybe they just didn't have the tools or whatever. Like I said, I wasn't there, somebody was. So that's my view of it, is living here is different than people who maybe live a neighborhood over or they're not close, but living in that space is different. So if it was a helpful solution for it not to be there, however that looks, obviously there's streets that are stopped that were connected at one point, hence the name Reconnect Southpark. So I would have to go with a few summers ago when the youth that were part of our cohort developed ideas, and it was so wonderful, the ideas they came up with. A grocery store. There's no grocery store in South Park or Georgetown.
So they have to cross that street right there to get to the grocery store.
Even getting to Safeway, you're going under the highway, up a hill, you know. The youth came up with beautiful ideas. A big arts facility, open green space, a bike trail.
That would be super nice for a bike trail, for sure.
And then of course housing. Having community built housing, a space that's intentional, that creates community. However it happens, that would be beautiful to see in the neighborhood. Space where it's needed, right? A lot of the community groups in South Park, the constant thing you'll hear is like, we don't have space to do things. And it's Seattle, 6, 7, 8 months out of the year, it's tough to be outside to do activities and events because of the weather. So that would be beautiful. That's what I would envision.
And then going on to the last question, what is South Park to you? You mentioned you've been living here since 2016. So what does this whole community mean to you? And just what are your goals for this community?
Yes, thank you. So yeah, I'm not what's considered a longtime resident of South Park. At some point, we're all visitors on the planet, no matter where we are. So I take that into consideration. I'm in this neighborhood intentionally. And it's learning for me. So when I first got here, I would just walk the whole entire neighborhood before Resistencia was here, which is a coffee shop that's really well known. And I thought it was, again, I hate to use the word, but it was so cute to me. It was just a beautiful neighborhood, and I started seeing the same people every day. And a lot of people have lived here for years. I have a neighbor, she and her husband, who are now in their late 70s, they were born here.
Wow.
Like her husband's house was there before the freeway was there, and he still lives in the neighborhood.
So he got to see the whole
process. It's a really, really beautiful neighborhood to me, full of beautiful people. Right. I love the community feeling. And again, that isolation part of it, being an island, I think that has its benefits. And the park's beautiful to me. I love it. I love the people in the neighborhood. I love the businesses in the neighborhood.
Like you mentioned, I think South Park is definitely, we're going to use the word cute. It gives you a sensation of warmth, especially because the community members here are super close within each other. Right. The businesses here. And also, it's like, why is this community that is bringing so much to the table, why is it not being included in other things, right? So I think also that's another big part of this whole project, is like getting them involved with just the community in general.
Community groups who are here, they're such beautiful advocates for the neighborhood and for the community. I've really learned that over my last few years. I came to the neighborhood. I didn't want to just automatically insert myself and, I'm here. So it was a real gradual induction for me into the community. And I'm a watcher. That's, I like to watch and observe. So the community groups in this neighborhood, beautiful, beautiful humans who are true advocates for the community, the land. That's one of my observations too. You've got people that have been working for years and living here for years. And it's not always easy. They've been advocating for things in the neighborhoods, really industrial, kind of isolated. So a lot of respect I have for those community groups that are here.
For sure. Well, Crystal, with that, we conclude our interview for today. Thank you so much once again for all of your words. We appreciate you taking the time and being here on the podcast. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. Bye.